Good morning, YouTube. So today, we've got a Honda in the shop. Surprise, surprise. What we've got here is a 14 Honda Pilot, and we're not doing anything fancy. We're just gonna do some front brakes. For those of you that do brakes all the time, you can probably tune out. You're not gonna learn much. Well, actually, maybe you will. There's a couple of things that I do that might be a little bit extra compared to what you guys are doing for brakes. In New England today, in New Hampshire, it's negative, I'm not sure what. It's bright and sunny out there. It's yeah, deceiving to say the least, because you step outside and if you've got any hair or any water on your hair, on your face, it immediately freezes to your face. Sorry, it's really early. Haven't had any Red Bull yet. Working on running to the store before this brake job. Then I'll get started on the brakes. Show you guys what I do. And like I said, it might be a little different because in New England with the rust I deal with, I end up having to break out the last bead cabinet. That's a little hint. So anyway, stay tuned. So, always spray, always spray. Always spray. Everything down PB Blast. I don't have any PB Blast. I have that currently. What I've got there is a 17 millimeter long ratcheting wrench. Doesn't have to be ratcheting, doesn't even have to be long. I like the leverage I get, obviously. I try to get in here and pry the caliper back just a small amount. That way when I do crack this bolt free, I can put this same pry bar in under here, swivel this guy up. I don't even have to take the top bolt out. I can just kind of slide the pin, bolt and all, right out of this here slide. Now I know that slides. Check this one down here, it also slides. If they don't, you have to take this apart, clean it, get all the rust out of it, put it all back together and grease. So, now if that's out of the way, these back here are going to be a 19 millimeter. Don't always use air tools for this. I'm just trying to be kind of quick since I'm letting the camera roll. So, those two bolts, bracket comes right down. Rotor has these two screws that are holding it on there that I should have sprayed a moment ago, but I'll just go ahead and spray all of it now. Impact screwdriver, very important. Almost impossible to do this job without. Put it in the little screwdriver and you kind of put pressure towards you to unscrew. And it just simply jolts it free. Just like so. Get the screw out. Take that same big hammer. Go back to a couple of whacks. Old rusty rotor. As far as the caliper bracket goes, right here, it's got the brake pads in it. You want to knock those out. With the appropriate tool. Back to the pry bar. Get rid of these tins. Quality parts are going to come with these. Strip the caliper bracket down to nothing. Now, I'm going to plug this hole with a random slide pin that I have kicking around, because I do this a lot. And we're going to take this thing over to the glass bead cabinet. And what I'm going to focus on is I'm going to focus on cleaning out this rust right here in these slides. Now, if you've ever done a brake job and you've had a hard time getting the brake pads to sit back into this bracket, it's probably because there was rust built up underneath the slides under these tin metal deals, okay? So I've found, years of doing this, the right way to do it is to completely disassemble it, completely sandblast just the slide areas of the bracket, and when you put it all back together, the brake pads slide like they would from the factory. You don't have to replace calipers, you don't have to replace brackets, you just have to take your time. And yeah, having a glass bead cabinet is really helpful. You don't need one. You could do this with an air grinder, you could do this with a regular electric, you know, Home Depot $40 tool with an abrasive pad. You just gotta be sort of careful and you know, attentive to detail. So, okay guys, so here we are. The other side of the part just like I did the first side there. And here's that bracket. So I'm gonna grab my pry bar, my little mini kind of sharp end. Got some quality brake pads, ceramic. And like I was saying, anything, you know, quality at all is gonna come in the package with this new hardware. Please don't just throw that away. So many guys skip that very important step. And once brake pads have to be hammered in, the caliper can't really do its job correctly. So what I do here is I hang the rotor actually backwards at first, just so that's a good place to hang it. I don't gotta bend down. I can spray it with brake clean here. Let that drip dry. Do the same to the other side, which I'll do in a moment. While those are drying, I gotta move the mighty CRX just forward, which I can do with one hand because it's a CRX, to expose my sandblast cabinet, or glass bead cabinet if you will. It used to have Black Beauty in it, but I've since filled it with glass particles that work a whole lot better. So what you do, you just put your hands in these gloves. There's a pedal down here that operates a pneumatic air trigger inside there. So I just put the bracket in there and I'll be doing that. I'll try to set the camera up in here. I guess I might be able to do it like this so you can watch the painstaking process of glass beading. Okay, so I got the bracket in the cabinet there and I got my hands slid in. And it's important to note I'm wearing safety glasses even though I'm in a cabinet and this thing's resting up against a piece of plexiglass. These glass bead particles can be very sharp and you can get them in your eye. As you can see, I'm rotating it in all different directions, and I'm really focusing on the whole area in and around where the brake pad, I'm going to call it the ear of the brake pad, where the ear of the brake pad sits and rides. And as you can see that almost brand new metal texture. That's what we're going for. That's going to make for a very smooth surface for that clip to sit in. Sometimes the gun likes to jam. You know, oscillate the trigger a few times, or the pedal rather, on this one. Anyways, you get the point, right? The edges and the area inside, and even in here where the clip actually clips into. Go ahead and turn the camera off. Here's the finished product. And yeah, I do the bolt holes as well. So here's a little before and after, because this is the unfinished one here. I'm going to go ahead and take out the pins, move them over to this caliper bracket, so that way I can put it back in the cabinet. Okay, here we are back on the driver's side. This is the side I have to be able to lean things up against. I'm going to take this off. I'm not going to put the clean side that I just sprayed down. I'm going to keep it on the top hat side. I just want to show you guys, use a little bit of anti-seize, specifically at the holes where the rotor holds to, but also there's kind of a little bit of an area, like an air gap in here. And if you don't put a little anti-seize, never seize, whatever you call it, on this hub face, then the next rotor for the next guy won't likely fall off as easy as it did for us today. So it could cause a vibration, I guess that's what people say. I don't believe that. I believe it's more like you got to maintenance it on through the job, so that way the next person that has to do the job isn't left with a miserable nightmare of everything being seized together. These holes correspond with some of the holes in the rotor. See how there's extra holes for the screw holes? You just simply line it up to where the screw holes are supposed to be. Take your screws, another dot of anti-seize on the screws. Put it somewhere sort of clean, obviously. Once you hit this thing with a hammer over here, everything becomes a mess. But this might not be a very good recommendation for states with little rust. Because they do say that anti-seize will affect your torque spec. However, here in New England, I don't find that to be so true. If you don't put some anti-seize on these caliper bracket bolts, next time you go to take them out, they almost certainly will break. The Subaru ones almost always break. I'll put it to you that way. So yeah. While we're right here, if I can find my clamps, I'll clamp down that caliper. These are the clamps I was talking about. These are dual piston calipers, so you're going to need two. What I do, simply pop them in there. Don't go super tight at first. Clamp it down. You'll see one goes in, one goes out. Grab your other clamp. Very important to do this simultaneously, kind of, because you can squish one and pop the other one completely out. Then you need a brake caliper, or rebuild kit, or just to have a horseshoe kind of stuck up your ass and be really, really lucky that that thing doesn't leak afterwards. Either way, this is what I found is the most correct way to deal with this. It doesn't apply a super amount of pressure each time. If there is any hang up in the piston, you'll almost see it or feel it as you're pushing it back. And once it's back nice and flush, you're done. You can move these clamps onto the other side. Sometimes this side will push back out when you move to the other side. Not usually. On a Honda Pilot at least. But if that happens, just beware. Just reclamp it, push it back in. No big deal. All right. So this is Silglide. There's lots of different stuff like this, but the idea here is it's clear. It's not the black stuff. The black stuff I've had very bad luck with. Anything that's just sort of a jelly, I have pretty good luck with. So what you do is you just put a light film, coating on the caliper bracket itself. Then you grab those kind of pieces of tin in this bag here. And as you can see, with the bracket nice and clean, they just sort of pop right in like they're supposed to. Well, not one-handedly. Nothing is very easy to do with one hand. You get the idea. Just like that. And then I take that same grease and I put just a light, I mean really guys, this much, the smallest amount of my fingertip, and just kind of push it in here. Like that. That's what you need. Now that brake pad will slide nice on this tin retainer, whatever kind of metal it's made of. I'm sure it's not real tin. When it clamps and retracts. Okay. We've got the rotor back up here, sprayed off with brake clean. Let's go ahead and start these screws. These are nice. They hold it right in place, straight up and down. If they don't come out, it's not that big of a deal. You don't really need them. It is really nice for assembly purposes. I imagine, and I'm just holding pressure forward now. See how that works nice? They hold it straight up and down. So when I put this caliper bracket back that I've put grease on the slides, there's not much chance of, you know, touching the grease to the brake rotor. Sorry, I guess I should have turned the TV down and decline. Run back after this. At any rate, I know I took these back bolts out with air. I don't like to put them back in with air. I don't even necessarily like to take them out with air. If they're going to break, you can't really feel it that way. I was just doing that for the, you know, the video. So, but to put them back in, I got this 19mm long ratcheting wrench, and get it kind of snug there. Top, bottom one, and then I flip it to the hard end. I don't like to tighten with the ratcheting end. You just give it, yeah, just a little snug. The appropriate torque spec is probably somewhere around 65 pounds or so, but you can sort of feel that out. Now, these are the brake pads from this side. I like to leave everything on the sides that they are. As you can kind of see, you can tell that was an inside brake pad. Let's get the tab here. So what I do, get the box of brake pads, do a little game of which one of these things is like the other, and put that one in the location that you removed that one from. It'll work the other way. It's not right the other way. So, get the brake pads in the chamber. See how nice they move? Put a little bit of this here grease on the back side of the brake pad. That keeps from any rattles or any noises. It also kind of hardens once it dries. It's kind of a grease, but it's sort of sticky. It's really very strange stuff. It's grease when you want it to be grease, and it's glue when you want it to be glue. Put some on the exposed slide up here that we did not take off the caliper itself. Slide that guy back in there. Make sure it sits over the brake pads nicely, which it does. See how you can rock it up and it just sort of sits there? Let's try to get closer here. Look at that. And now the brake pads have these holes here and here for these last pain in the ass springs. And I'll show you how I get away with doing that. To try to do it with the caliper off and get the caliper back on, it's near impossible. So I play up the pads with one hand, put the top spring in with the other, and then slap the caliper down over the brake pads. Now the caliper is going to hold that in place while you get the other spring. When you pull the caliper back up, you don't go up very high. You try to just find the lower holes here, and the other one right there. I know you guys can't see any of that, but Boom, done. Springs didn't go everywhere. I'm not cursing. I've got one bolt to install that's left. You sort of twist this inside pin to line up nicely. And I did grease that pin off camera. Greased both of them for the lower pins. Sorry. This is a 17 millimeter long ratcheting wrench. Not even using the ratcheting side. I'm just going to pull down. Snugged up. Get the wheel nice and straight. One last spray with the brake cleaner in case anything got on the rotor surface while we were working. And there you have it. That's about as clean of a brake job as you can do. And using this method, I have very little, almost no complaints of squeaks, no comebacks for brakes, new brakes every day, to the point where if I filmed brakes all the time, you guys would hate me. So this is what I found works for me as a fail-safe method, tried and true, do it every time. The time lapse, I don't know how long this video is, but in real life it took me around an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. So putting the car up in the air just a little bit so I can get the lift back down. I got the tires bolted back on here. Got the car coming back down off the lift, and there's just one last thing I want to show you. Since I showed you the whole brake job from start to finish, you know, what I consider properly. There is, before you try to back this thing out, one of the most dangerous things, we push those pistons all the way back. So go ahead and gently oscillate the brake pedal so you get a nice stiff pedal. And then a lot of cars, you always want to check the brake fluid anyways when doing a brake job. But a lot of times you'll have a plunger that will be pushed down. Now this is a Honda. I won't be able to show you. Oh wait, there it is. So this is the plunger I'm talking about. And you push that guy back in. Make sure the fluid's up to snuff, and it is. You know, it was actually overfull, so it's wet up here. I'll have to hit it with some of that brake cleaner to dry it off. However, now that plunger's pushed back in nice, it's creating a better seal, and the pedal will be much better. If you fail to do that, the car will still leave with brakes. The customer might complain of a squishy brake pedal over the phone next few days. When it comes in, that's going to be your culprit. I used to run a brake store, and I had guys working for me, and this is one of the things they would forget all the time. 7:15 in the morning, I'd be unlocking the shop, and sure enough, the customer from yesterday would be pulling in. My brake pedal's squishy. So just get ahead of that, you guys. It takes one more second.